Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Tomer Devorah. We are on day 27 in chapter 9. We are nearly done with this sefer, and it's been an amazing sefer. And I just want to recap day 26. In the last few days, it's been talking about kind of the ebb and flow of the 10 sefirot, if you will. And ironically, in the last one, it's talking about cautioning one and guarding themselves from licentious thoughts. And it kind of, fits and coincides with the whole thing of Tisha B'Av in that, what they're kind of describing here is how one, a certain action can kind of cause an offense to their counterparts. And this... it's very deep, it's very detailed, but for sure, it's certainly, I think the sefer in a nutshell is really talking about how we should be treating one another and how those actions are affecting the supernal man. Between, all the fighting that's going on internally, it's just really a shame that, I don't know, we are just one people. We just have to learn how to get it together, especially if we want to bring Mashiach in love. Chas v'shalom, that it should have to be through, suffering or because it just absolutely was time. For sure, I think that we can do it. We can pull it together and we can do what's required of us. So we're on day 27, and it says how a person should accustom himself with the attribute of Malchus. First, one should not hold himself aloof with all that he possesses. Rather, he should always consider himself a pauper, placing himself before his Creator like the destitute, begging and pleading. Even if he's a man of wealth, he should accustom himself with this attribute, considering that none of his possessions belong to him, and that he is forsaken, requiring the constant mercies of the Creator, having nothing at all besides the bread he eats. He should humble his heart and act as if he himself was a pauper, and especially at the time of prayer, for this is wonderful and auspicious. In contrast, it is stated, your heart may become aloof, and you may forget Hashem, your God, Devarim 8:14. For external forgetfulness is common there, which one holds himself aloof. King David conducted himself very much with this attribute, saying, for I am alone and poor, Tehillim 25:16, considering himself as a pauper, since each member of man's household must fend for himself before the heavenly court. What can anyone do for him? Of what help will even his wife and children be when he is judged before the Creator? Or when his soul departs, will they accompany him beyond the grave? What good are they to him in his time of judgment for the entrance to his grave and beyond? Therefore, one should humble and perfect himself according to the essence of this attribute. A second extremely important method is explained in the sefer HaZohar. Vayakel 198b, one should exile himself, wandering from place to place for the sake of heaven, thereby becoming a vehicle for the exiled Shekhinah. He should compare himself, behold, I exiled myself, but I have all my implements with me. But what about the honor of the Supreme One? For the Shekhinah is exiled without her implements, for they are lacking as a result of the exile. For this reason, he should minimize his implements as much as possible, as is written, make for yourself implements of exile, Yirmiyah 46:19. He should humble his heart in exile and bind himself to the Torah, then the Shekhinah will be with him. He should always impose expulsion order upon himself, always banishing himself from the comforts of his home, just as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his comrades banished themselves and toiled in Torah. Better still, he should trudge by foot and place to place without a horse or without a wagon. Concerning such a person, it is stated, his hope is in Hashem, his God, Tehillim 146:5. As explained in the Zohar, Vayakel 198a, the word sivro, which can be read homiletically as shivro, derives from the word shever, which means breaking, for he breaks his body for the honor of the Supreme One. Another very important aspect of this attribute of Malchus, which is the gateway to all divine service, is to fear the honored and awesome Hashem. Now, fear itself is extremely dangerous in that it can cause a blemish and allow entry to the external evil forces. For if the fear is from suffering, death, or Gehinom, it is actually a fear of the external forces themselves, since all of these functions derive from the external forces. However, the primary fear is fear of Hashem. This is achieved by pondering three, and then it's got in kind of parentheses 4 things. The first, since the greatness of he who fashioned all things is over all existence, and behold, man fears the lion, the bear, the terrorist, fire, and falling ruin, which are only minor emissaries. Why then should he not fear the great king and have the awe of the greatness resting upon his face? He should say, how can the despicable man sin against such a great master? For if he angered a bear, it would gobble him up. Whereas because the Holy One, the Kodesh Baruch Hu, tolerates insult, is this a reason not to fear his awesomeness and greatness? The second, by imagining that Hashem's constant divine providence, which observes and scrutinizes him, and behold, the slave always fears his master when in his presence, and man is always in the presence of the Creator, who carefully inspects all his ways. Thus, he should be afraid and terrified to be seen nullifying his mitzvot. The third, since Hashem is the root of all souls, and all of them are rooted in his spheros, a transgressor damages his sanctuary. Should he not fear that the king's sanctuary be soiled by his evil deeds? The fourth, one should understand that his flawed deeds repel the Shekhinah above. One should fear lest he cause the great evil of diverting the king, meaning Hashem, and desire from the queen, meaning the Shekhinah. These kinds of fears set a person on the right path towards perfecting this attribute, enabling him to cleave to them. And so again, we are coming into some very beautiful liturgy here, especially when you're coming into prayer. I think it is always important. We don't have anyone else. We don't have any hope. We don't have any, it's like the Siddur says that when you place your hopes in man and he dies on that day, all his plans fail. So Hashem is really our only Redeemer, our only hope. And we should, I'm constantly on Hashem's door, really, like really begging. I've got this lesson down to a T. Begging for Hashem at this point has become, if I could get paid for begging Hashem, I'd be a very wealthy woman. And for sure, one of the things I say to Hashem is, out of your storehouse of abundant grace and mercy. Meaning that for sure, even if I have no merit, surely there's some kind of provision, and I ask also that he gives to me as well, because he owns everything, and surely there is something, even if it's the crumbs, he can surely please spare for your beloved, because I'll just be back begging for more. So, Hashem is just great. So that concludes today's learning. We are almost done, girls. We're almost done. And Besrat Hashem, we'll all be together again soon.